Hello, greetings. Welcome to United States of Africa. United States of Africa is a nation that we are building, a unified African nation. And to attain this unified Africa, we must work together. I'm just waiting for you to come online so that we can begin. But this is the United States of Africa. The project that we have been working for quite some time. We have been involved in this unification of Africa for a very long time, and the reason why we are working towards reunification of all people of African descent is because without unity there'll never be a strong Africa. And in order to restore the Africa during its how it was during its pre-colonial period, we have to embrace our roots, and we have also to embrace our culture, be proud of our Black identity, and be proud where we came from. And it's only through self-realization that we can build a prosperous African nation. And we need to embrace the positive mindset and weed out all negativity that is coming in from Western media. There's so many negative stories that the Western media constantly keeps on narrating, and this is part of social programming to make Africans believe that we are just a set of failures. We are poor people who are bootless people who cannot even get themselves up. Africa is not a poor nation, and Africans are not poor. We have seen, even as the pandemic hits Africa, we have seen a lot of innovation. It's like people are waking up. They're beginning to realize that Africa needs only herself. Africa does not need anyone except herself, because we have countless natural resources that the Chinese are exploiting. The Europeans are exploiting these natural resources for their own benefit. And this is happening because of the poor leadership that we have in Africa. We have very weak leaders that cannot make the right decisions for their people. Leaders who just get hoodwinked by positive Western publicity at the expense of the African people. They don't care how much natural resources they give away to these foreign countries. Africa at the moment is being driven by this foreign direct investment mentality. It's not driven by investing in the people. This philosophy calls upon Africans to come together so that we invest in ourselves. Without investing in our people, there's no way Africa will become a first world country. We'll continue being called a third world, and if it goes on, they'll even create a fourth world, a sixth world, even an eighth world for Africans to fit in. So in order for us to develop an African nation, the United States of Africa, we have to come together and let us work very seriously and demonstrate extreme devotion to United States of Africa by way of supporting this project financially, because United States of Africa government cannot run without any funds. If we want to establish a United States of Africa government, it definitely needs financial support. And since we are not demanding taxes, we are requesting our followers to start supporting the project. Donate, even if it's $1 a month, $3 a month, $5, $9, $25. That money, we are going to reinvest it into the people, gather ideas, and select the best business proposal, fund our members, and supervise these business ideas so that these people are economically empowered And after that, if they are economically empowered, then they'll have an obligation to also contribute to support the United States of Africa, so that we can develop capacity to economically empower other Africans, and Africans at home and also in the diaspora. This is an idea that can be implemented everywhere in Europe, in Africa, in America, and throughout the world. So in order for us to be able to make sound political decisions, we have to be economically empowered. And this is the route now that United States of Africa and Global Pan-Africanism Network is moving into, engaging people, the African people, realistically in changing their lives. And the best way to change your life is by getting involved actively in changing the lives of others. As you continue changing the lives of others, yours will never be the same again. Your life will definitely change because these people that you empower economically will definitely start appreciating what you have done. And before you know it, you realize that you are the top, you are economically empowered, and you have created a legacy that will last for thousands of generations. This is the kind of Africa that we need. We need to restore a lot of trust that has been lost after slavery, after colonialism. This kind of mistrust is one of the reasons why Africans find it very difficult to support Pan-African organizations, to support Pan-African causes, to support United States of Africa, because many have very wild ideas. They think maybe by United States of Africa, those funds will go to a personal individual, benefit a single person, but they don't see the bigger picture of the project, that this project is by Africans for Africans. And the more you support United States of Africa, the more financial muscles we'll have to implement projects in Africa. There are so many institutions that need to be created in Africa to improve on the service delivery and ensure that the people get access to the healthcare. We need a healthcare system for Africa. That's a kind of healthcare system that will be able to meet the needs of the African people, regardless the economic or financial status. You are talking about, somebody is asking about talking about African governments having a problem in terms of they have colonized minds. This is as a result of the effects of the neocolonialism. Many of these African leaders have studied in Western countries, and they have embraced the Western mindset, even the terms in the way they think. And this kind of thinking is what is dragging Africa into the mud, because we have mad people who are running Africa, and these are the people who do not even see tomorrow. They only care about what they are getting, their personal benefits, how long they stay in power, and how they generate their relatives benefit from their stay in power. This is why you see the African leaders that kill their own citizens just to maintain the grip on power. They suppress the opposition candidates just to remain in power. But the true power comes from the people, and it's the people, the African people, that have the ultimate decision to make whether they want United States of Africa, or if they want to still continue living in their colonial boundaries. It's you, the African people, to decide whether you want to build one independent and prosperous African nation, or continue living in an Africa completely defeated, an Africa without hope, an Africa without vision, an Africa that is sandwiched by poverty and disease, an Africa that is sandwiched by hopelessness, This is not the kind of Africa that we desire. It's not the Africa that we want. And in order for us to create the Africa we want, we have to start by changing ourselves. Let us drop the kind of negative mindset that will take us nowhere. We need to embrace the positive mindset, believe in ourselves, think positively. And if we change ourselves and start doing things that are required for us to start witnessing radical transformation in Africa, then definitely we'll continue seeing progress. And this kind of progress is what will inspire even those leaders that are scared of the Europeans. They're scared of the Chinese, such that they sign very crazy agreements. And then you find out that many African countries are getting problems paying these debts because they are overburdened by these loans, these crazy loans that they signed. We have to learn how to negotiate like really businessmen, and the African people first before anything else. The lack of good business leadership is responsible for the kind of situation that we are witnessing in Africa. We are seeing many African nations plunged into debts, and the reason why this is happening is because of lack of leadership. And this lack of leadership can only be replaced if we step into the positions, we step into the void that exists in Africa in terms of the continental leadership. This one appears to be lacking. We have regional leaderships, and even these regional leaderships that are restricted within these colonial boundaries, these kind of leaderships are still very poor and weak. And this kind of pandemic that is facing Africa, it requires very strong leaders, very committed, and the leaders that are devoted to the African people, and the kind of leaders that will put the interest of the African people first, ensure that the people's safety, the people's health is the first priority. And United States of Africa is in a very good position to ensure that we deliver all these things that Africans are missing, starting from education, healthcare, agriculture, rapid agricultural revolution, promoting, equipping the farmers with the right knowledge, right equipments, the right seeds that they need. These are the things that Africa needs now. And if we empower our farmers, we ensure that we give them the adequate information they need, ensure that we provide the agricultural extension services, ensure that farms are tilled in the right time because we have provided equipments to farmers. Then with food productivity, we'll start witnessing the progress that Africa has been waiting for. United States of Africa will not come if Africans are not ready to get to work, to roll down your sleeves and get to work as we have been working, because this is a vision that many have fought for. But if we come together and do it collectively, we'll be able to realize the African nation that everyone has been waiting for. And to build this United States of Africa, we have to start by having a unified mindset. Let us support United States of Africa, believe in ourselves, take pride in our culture and identity. Let us learn about African history, and there's a lot of Chinese discrimination going on. In order for us to be able to redeem ourselves from this kind of humiliation, we have to unite, build everything that we need for happiness and civilization. The racism in China and Chinese racism in Africa is all about the economic power. They think Africans are fools because they came with nothing, and Africa gave China all its natural resources. And now China is rich. Just 40 years, China is filthy rich, but Africa is still poor. Yet these natural resources are coming from Africa. This needs to change. We need to nationalize our national resources and ensure that these natural resources benefit our people. And by nationalization of natural resources, they'll go to the rightful to the rightful owners, the people. If you see, if there's gold in your homestead, there's diamond where you live, there's copper where you live, that copper belongs to you. It doesn't belong to the government. It definitely belongs to you. So by nationalizing, the government will be a custodian of the people's resources, ensure that these natural resources benefit the people. And this should be the ultimate goal of every African government. And to ensure that we protect our natural resources, we need to unite, establish United States of Africa, establish the United States of Africa Defense Forces to protect Africa militarily. We have been colonized once, we have been enslaved so many times, so there is need for us to have a very powerful and very lethal United States of Africa Defense Forces. And by having an African military, we'll be able to defend our natural resources, defend our people, and also defend the integrity, the sovereignty of the African nation. We'll be able to even reclaim African islands that are still being under occupation by European colonial powers to this moment. France is still fighting for African islands. Mayotte is an African island, but now it is under the control of the French people. This is something that we need to work to decolonize. And to decolonize Africa, we have to have the United States of Africa Defense Forces so that by all means necessary, we can be able to restore the dignity of the African people. And if we restore the dignity of the African people, we'll be respected everywhere. Racial discrimination against black people will come to an end. If we defeat racism, then definitely everyone will start respecting Africa. The same way people now respect the Chinese because they're economically advanced, they have built their own technologies. But what has Africa done for the last 50 years? Which technology do we have as a nation? We are still using European technologies. Even in terms of communication, we are using their platforms. That shows you that Africa is yet to make progress. But the hope lies in the African people, and young people have a big role to play in ensuring that we create needs as a nation. This is why we have United States of Africa Technology Department responsible for creating the technologies that we need as an African nation. So if you are an innovator, you can build apps, you can create very perfect websites, you can build electronics. This is the time to join United States of Africa, be part of the organization Global Pan-Africanism Network, so that these skills can come handy in solving the problems and challenges that Africa is facing at the moment. Africa has countless problems. We have locust outbreaks. At the same time, there's a coronavirus pandemic, and this appears to be overwhelming Africa. And one of the ways that we can assist the African governments in fighting coronavirus is by taking extreme precautions. Let us take the necessary measures. Stop defying curfews, stop defying lockdowns, because these lockdowns are made to protect the African people. And if you ignore the lockdowns, then you become a potential bomb. You become a biological weapon, because if you are infected by coronavirus and you are defying lockdowns, you are defying government regulations and advice regarding the measures that you need to take protect yourself and other people from coronavirus, then you become a public enemy to the African nation. And we have seen a lot of misbehavior in many African countries. The Africans that are not seeing the seriousness of this pandemic that we are facing, and in countries where the citizens are obeying government orders, we are seeing very quickly COVID-19 is being defeated. The best example is in Uganda. We have seen the measures that have been deployed are working. So other African states need to learn from these successful African states, from states that have been able to completely prevent coronavirus from coming into their countries. This is good news that Africa needs to share with the world, that there are still countries that coronavirus set foot. Let us work on the more preventive measures. We should not wait to be struck by the enemy and then we start running everywhere in confusion. We need to confuse the enemy so that the enemy does not even set into our land. And by doing that, then we win the war without a single battle. This is the kind of Africa that we want, the Africa that will not be begging for mercy. We have seen many African nations that are begging, and these African states that are very wealthy, they have a lot of natural resources, but they're begging for paper from IMF, from World Bank, and yet this paper is of less value than the natural resources that we have. This kind of business that we have been doing with the rest of the world, exchanging gold for paper, this kind of business needs to come to an end. We need to process, add value to our own minerals, and even increase the value, because no matter how much paper, I don't think it will never be equal. It will never be equal to gold. There's no way paper can be equal to copper, but they have been coming with these papers and they take away our natural resources. Time for us to wake up, and let us also revive the barter trade so that we get equal value for what we have. If you have 2 goats, you can exchange with the sheep. If you have cattle, you can exchange. You can exchange with rabbits, as many or chickens, but these chickens have to be of equal value to the cattle. The paper can never be equal to gold, so we need to wake up and also revive the barter trade as we promote the inter-Africa trade. It's very important to also ensure that we revive the barter trade, trade amongst each other, and by trading amongst each other, we'll be able to economically empower ourselves. So United States of Africa is an initiative that is open to everyone. We invite the African states to support United States of Africa. The African Union is actually United States of Africa is one of the vision of the African Union. And instead of going circles from one circle to another, from OAU to AU, we need to just step right into United States of Africa. Let us work towards the realization of United States of Africa. We have almost 220,000 followers. So let us start from here by embracing the United States of Africa. We'll start accepting ourselves as a united African nation, and by this then we'll continue inspiring others and begin to solve our problems. We appeal to the African nations to come to the rescue of their citizens in China, ensure that the people's safety is a first priority. The Africans in China need to be rescued as soon as possible without asking them to pay or to be rescued at their own cost. You cannot ask a bootless man to rescue himself from his own bootstraps. That's just an insult. These people have faced systematic racial discrimination, and it's the responsibility of the African nation to quickly make arrangements, go out and rescue the African citizens, bring them home, and ensure that these citizens are able to resume their normal lives by giving them the support that they need. This is what needs to be done, and we are still witnessing a lot of Chinese workers, Chinese employers that are discriminating against Africans, yet they are in African soil. We need to hold them accountable. All these racist Chinese need to be deported, and if we deport them, then we'll begin solving the problem. Because we cannot tolerate racism. We have been trampled on for so long, over 400 years of slavery, European slavery, 14 centuries of Arab slavery, but now they are still selling Africans. In Lebanon, one Nigerian domestic worker was being sold for $1,000. This needs to come to an end, and it can only come to an end when we create opportunities, economic opportunities that Africans need to stop them from going to the Middle East, working as slaves. It doesn't make sense that Africa has so much natural resources, yet our people are dying, going to war zones in the Middle East to seek for opportunities. So let us embrace a true spirit of Pan-Africanism. Let us learn to love each other, love our neighbors, love ourselves, overcome tribalism. By overcoming tribalism, then we'll start seeing ourselves as African citizens, and we build this idea of the African nationality. This is what Africa needs now. We need to confront xenophobia, confront ourselves, and weed out all these negative energies that we have, overcome self-hate, and also let us stop worshipping other races. We should believe in ourselves the same way Chinese build China into what it is now. Even we Africans can do the same thing. We can, the moment we start thinking differently, then change will be realized. and we'll build the Africa that we want, the United States of Africa. So let us continue working on this project, and also supporting the West Papua campaign, Africa for West Papua campaign. I was appointed to be the representative for Free West Papua campaign Kenya, and this is an opportunity to fight for self-determination for the indigenous people in West Papua. And this is a collective effort. We need to increase the awareness of the black genocide that is going on in West Papua. Indonesia cannot colonize West Papua, yet they were colonized by the same colonizer, the Dutch. While Indonesia got its independence in 1945, West Papua got its independence in 1961, and thereafter Indonesia came in as an invader. It came in as a colonizer, and this colonialism has been legalized by the United Nations, flawed act of free choice, where only 1,025 people were allowed to vote whether to be part of Indonesia or to remain independent. And that was out of over 800,000 indigenous people, because probably United Nations thought some of these people are trees, just like the Australian Aborigines were classified as were once classified as trees, and they also thought that West Papuans are too ignorant. They don't know how to vote, so they decided to select 1,005 people, and these are the people that were forced by Indonesian military to vote against their will to hand over West Papua Republic to Indonesia. And this kind of colonialism is happening in the eyes of United Nations. It's happening in the eyes of the International Criminal Court. International Criminal Court is not talking about the genocide in West Papua because these over 500,000 people that have been killed, they are not white, they are black people. So we need to see the same kind of seriousness in the fight against, in the fight for human rights when it comes to black people. The same way we see human rights when they affect when white people are affected. United Nations is very quick to fight for that, and they issue a statement very quickly. They follow up the matter, and if the matter goes worse, they deploy the United Nations security forces. But we are not seeing the same kind of approach in West Papua. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres knows about the gravity of this matter. He knows about the genocide in West Papua, but he's a very close friend of Indonesia. So he believes whatever Indonesia tells him, and this has been true for all other human rights organizations. They usually believe the lies that Indonesia tells the world about West Papua. But now the time has come for the world to know the truth about the ongoing black genocide in West Papua. We need to stand with our African brothers there, stand for their freedom. Let us encourage them to fight for their own liberation, support the liberation struggle by the people of West Papua. The same way Africans fought against the colonizers, and we relieved ourselves from colonialism. West Papua can do the same. It can do the same. We only need to provide them the equipments that they need, and they'll be able to rescue themselves from the shackles of Indonesian colonialism. So it's Africa that has a responsibility to ensure that we employ all means necessary to liberate West Papua so that it becomes free, so that its people are able to determine their own destiny. West Papua is located in South Pacific, is close to Papua New Guinea and very close to Australia. But it's a black nation where people of African descent live, and they are indigenous people there. The same case as it is regions. Indigenous people of Australia, the legal heirs of Australia. We stand in solidarity with people of African descent around the world, and we encourage people in West Papua keep up the struggle. Don't let the colonizers deceive you. Continue fighting for your freedom. By fighting for your freedom, you are guaranteed of a free West Papua, and you cannot be just doing diplomacy alone. You need to go to the battlefield, fight, take down on these colonizers, and be able to break all these shackles of slavery, these shackles of colonialism. We African brothers and sisters, we support you. We support your struggles, and our vision is to see a free black nation in West Papua, and to combat, to eradicate all forms of neocolonialism in black nations around the world. It's through eradicating neocolonialism that we can create a prosperous African nation that safeguards the interests of its people, whether at home or a diaspora. Let us work for the Africa we want, the Africa that will take care of its natural resources, use them to develop its people. Long live the United States of Africa, and many greetings from Africa. As you can see, my brothers from West Papua. Long live West Papua. Keep up the struggle.